If you're an international doctor looking to get a generalist type of job in Australia as a trainee or a resident medical officer, then there are opportunities available for you right now, and I'm going to show you where to find them in this video. Hello guys, I'm Dr. Anthony Llewellyn, otherwise known as the Career Doctor on YouTube or from the AdvanceMed blog on Facebook and LinkedIn. I help you to manage your medical career in Australia, whether you're a locally trained doctor or perhaps one of those doctors from overseas looking to find a position. Now, I do have a strong international following, and for the last 2 or 3 months I keep getting inquiries to me, people saying, Anthony, you tell me that at some point this year there's going to be some opportunities for me to get a job as a trainee or a resident medical officer via maybe the competent authority pathway or the standard pathway, the AMC process at some point, because there generally is a time towards the end of the year. And I've kept saying, look, there don't seem to be too many opportunities right now, but give it a bit more time. Well, in the last week or two, something very interesting has happened, and there are now definitely some job opportunities there for you. So I'm going to show you where some of those opportunities are, and I'm going to talk you through how you can work out whether it's worth applying for a particular position or not, and what the magic words are. So I encourage you to watch all the way through this video. If you've got a question or a comment, leave it in the description below. I'll leave some links to some handy blog posts and some other resources that might be helpful for you in the description. And if you've got any doubts, I would recommend one of our risk-free strategy calls. Again, there'll be a link in the description below. But let's get into it. So the first thing I'm going to show you here is, so this is an image I took from the New South Wales Health medical jobs board for trainee doctors about 4 weeks ago when I was doing some coaching with one of my clients that uses me for coaching for jobs process. And this was the sum total of the amount of jobs displayed on the JOMO recruitment portal. So you can see there were 3 jobs in total. That is the lowest number of jobs I've seen on this portal, I should say, in ever really. And it was a bit of an indication to me that the first round of medical recruitment had been completed, everyone was processing that, and pretty much there was no other sort of spare jobs to be advertised. So that was a little bit dismal at that point in time. You can see that these jobs were sort of closing in or end of September. Now, flash forward to about 2 or 3 weeks later. Let me show you what that portal now looks for. So this is the same portal from 3 weeks ago. You can see here 160 jobs in total. Wow. So what does that mean? Well, I think a couple of things here. So remember that if you watch some of my videos, I talk about if you're after a job as, say, a resident medical officer, which is the kind of job you need if you're coming through the AMC standard pathway working for general registration, or perhaps a trainee level position, which might be open to someone with a bit of experience coming to the standard pathway, or maybe for, say, someone who's from one of those competent authority countries, UK, Ireland, Canada, US, etc. Or perhaps someone who's very senior looking for a position under the short-term specialist medical training pathway. Well, this is the portal you come to, but there's usually opportunities at the end of the annual recruitment process in Australia. Now that process, it's a little bit like the match in the US, but it's not really as, I guess, coordinated as it, say, maybe in the US. It's done by state and territory individually, and in some cases the colleges, the specialty training colleges, get more involved and not so. But it usually runs from about May to around about September, October every year. The job ads sort of start to pop up around May, June. New South Wales tends to be the last one to go in this process. It tends to be, because it's the biggest state by population, has the most jobs for trainee doctors, tends to be the last. Now what happened was when COVID hit, the various states and territories had to think about this, and New South Wales were worried that there'd be delays in college processes and a few other things, so they deliberately pushed back the date of their recruitment by a couple of months. So they're actually 2 months behind, and most of the other states and territories may be delayed by a week or so, or basically stuck to their time frame. So I think what's happened here, because we'll have a look at some of the other states and territories, is that New South Wales has been left without enough trainee doctors to fill a lot of their jobs. So it was a wrong tactical or strategic move at the end of the day. because I've never seen that many jobs advertised on this portal ever, except maybe actually through annual medical recruitment, but outside of that, ever. So you can see that if you browse through this portal, you can look at jobs by the health service, by the facility, by specialty. If you say a competent authority trainee doctor, that's useful for you. Usually what I do is look for position title, and for a lot of my candidates, they're looking for a resident medical officer position. So you can see that there's 7 advertised here. You can click on that and you can sort of drill down and see what's on offer. Now, I've already been through and had a look at not all of these jobs, but I've had a look at some of the resident medical officer and the unaccredited trainee jobs and just picked out a few to show you what I mean in terms of whether you might be able to apply or not. So we'll start off with some resident medical officer positions. So that's the RMO list there again. And here's the first one. This one is from Coffs Harbour, mid-north coast. So this is outside of Sydney. Coffs Harbour is a city, it's a fairly small city, but it's a regional area on the coast of New South Wales. Quite lovely. It has an airport. You can easily get to Sydney, Brisbane from there. You can see they're advertising for a resident medical officer. Now, what I normally do with these jobs, particularly in New South Wales, because it's dead easy, is I skip through to the selection criteria. Sometimes the selection criteria are a bit harder to find in other states and territories, which is a problem, but in New South Wales it's dead easy. They're down the bottom. So we go down here and we see to be eligible for this job, you need a medical degree, an MBBS or equivalent, and you need to be currently registered with the Medical Board of Australia. So what does that mean? That means if you're an IMG, that job is not open to you. You have to have registration already. Remember, to get registered as an international doctor in Australia, the first time around, you actually have to have an employment officer. So you have to have the job first before you can apply for registration. So that one is not applicable. But let's have a look at this other one here. So this is the Tweed Hospital, which is kind of, it's basically Tweed and the Gold Coast border each other on the New South Wales-Queensland border. So again, on the coast of Queensland. This is a resident medical officer now working in emergency medicine. So it's focused on ED. Now, a lot of you, if you're applying for these jobs, get worried. Well, the medical board says I need to do emergency medicine, general medicine, surgery, and I think it's 48 weeks full time. If there's a job, I always say go for it, because you can at least get part of that experience accredited. And if you do well enough, the hospital usually try and get you the other terms and rotations you need, or you may be able to get a job elsewhere because you've proven you can work in Australia. So anyway, this is at the Tweed Hospital, a resident medical officer. We skip down to the bottom here, and here we are, the magic words: MBBS or equivalent, currently registered or eligible for registration with the Medical Board of Australia. So that means that an international medical graduate could apply for this job. However, we have to dig into a bit of detail here, because they then say they want an Australian PG3 or equivalent as determined by the AMC Competent Authority pathway with relevant experience in kind of critical care type medicine. So what does that mean? That probably means that they're not after an IMG doctor coming through the standard pathway. But I think if you're fairly senior and you've recently passed the AMC 1 and possibly Part 2 and have some emergency skills, you might still want to hit them up, because they have taken, I've helped some doctors, and we did a video with one recently on the workshop website about her experience from non-competent authority countries to this particular health service. But it would definitely mean that if you are, say, from the UK and you've worked for 3 years and you've got some of that experience, they would be open to having an application for you. Now remember, that's on the eastern coast of Australia, just south of Brisbane. It's not a bad place to go. You don't have to necessarily go completely rural in Australia to get your first job. So there's an opportunity. Let's look at this next one. So I think that was the only RMO level one. We might go back here and we'll just quickly check through the rest of them. So Mid-North Coast, Westmead, I'll check that one. St Vincent's won't be. Murrumbidgee might be, because that's in rural. Concord won't be, nor will RPA. But let's just have a look at the Westmead one. No, you have to be registered for that one. You have to have 12 months experience as a medical officer, not observer. And Murrumbidgee around Griffith. Again, you have to have current registration. So that's interesting. I would have thought they would, in a place like that, they would probably need to be thinking about going for an AMC candidate. So you might want to just keep watching that. So that's the resident medical officer one. So I did also look at unaccredited trainees, and you probably want to go back and also look at senior residents as well. It's worth having a look at for these sort of standard pathway jobs. But if we had a look at the unaccredited trainees, I picked out a few, and there were quite a few, I think. And I didn't look through all of them. There's 41 in total, so you probably have to go through yourself. Here's one in Western Sydney, obstetrics and gynecology. There seems to be a lot of need for ONG doctors at the moment. And again, MBS or equivalent, currently registered or eligible. And you do need to have 3 years postgraduate experience and some experience in ONG. But if you're an IMG that has maybe even completed your ONG training and done the AMC pathway, the certificate part 1, then you would be eligible for that. And equally, if you're from the competent authority country, say UK obstetrics and gynecology training, well, that would be perfect for you, wouldn't it? Or the US or Ireland, etc. Here's another one, again, back at the Northern District where Tweed is, in Byron. Byron's a nice place on the coast. This is an emergency medicine for an unaccredited trainee, eligible for registration. Now this time they look like they're going for a competent authority doctor, so someone say from Canada, Ireland, US, UK, etc. with significant ED experience. But there you go, another opportunity for you if you're wanting to get away from the Northern Hemisphere at the moment. And here's another one, Grafton, same health district. It's a rural regional district, this Northern New South Wales, so they sometimes struggle to get enough doctors. And again, this one you do have to be registered, so that shows you the distinction. I don't know why I still had that one there. Here's one in Wollongong, which is just south of Sydney, in cardiology for an unaccredited trainee. Now this might well get soaked up by a local trainee, but you can see, again, currently registered or eligible for registration with the Medical Board of Australia. Now they do want completion of FRACP Part 1, but they are saying or eligible for registration. So I think this one might be, if you're clear with them and you contact this person, say you've done your cardiology training overseas and you're wanting one of those 2-year time limited short-term specialist medical training pathway registrations, you've got a lot of cardiology experience and you're pitching yourself in that way, they may well be keen to offer you a position. So I would have a look at that. Here's another one in emergency medicine in Sydney, Camden and Campbelltown Hospitals, Southwest Sydney, eligible for registration. Now here they want at least 2 postgraduate years and experience in the ED, but that one may well suit an AMC pathway, standard pathway doctor, or even a competent authority pathway doctor. Definitely worth a look in. Another one from Mid-North Coast in ONG. Remember I was saying they seem to be having a dearth of ONG trainees at the moment. Again, or eligible for registration. In this case, even though it's in the same district that was after competent authority, they don't seem to be knocking people out on the basis of competent authority this time round. So you'd probably want some ONG experience, but that one might be suitable again for an AMC standard pathway doctor. Another one in general medicine back in Shell Harbour, which is near to Wollongong in New South Wales, eligible for registration and no other minimum 2 years of experience, which I don't know why they put minimum 2 years. Experience doesn't translate to outcomes, so it should be something slightly different in terms of the ability to do the work. But that's me just getting on my high horse. But anyway, that would be one that an AMC doctor could probably apply for. And then finally, Mid-North Coast, Kempsey, emergency medicine, again, eligible for registration, needs 2 years postgraduate experience. So lots of opportunities there suddenly now. And as I said, I haven't gone through all the unaccredited trainees, all the SRMOs, or some of the other ones. So you may find some other opportunities amongst those 160. If you do and you're not clear, leave me a comment below. Please provide the link so I can go and look at it, because I don't want to go through 160 job titles just to find the one you're referring to. Yeah, so if you've got any confusion, leave a comment below for me. Now, remember, just as a segue, people are sort of often interested in salaries and what you earn for these jobs. So we do have a recent blog post on the AdvanceMed blog where you can check that out. And it does differ from state to territory what an intern, resident, registrar, etc., which is the trainee doctor, earns, so that gives you a bit of info about that. But you're probably asking, what about other states and territories? Well, I did have a look through Queensland. There were a few jobs advertised, not any that I found that were going to accept an IMG. I didn't actually find any in Queensland, nor did I find any WA, and the PMCV, which is the Victorian one, the match didn't seem to have any current sort of resident level matches available. But particularly with Victoria, you've got to look at the local hospitals themselves, because they often advertise individually for a lot of jobs. So there wasn't much there. South Australian Health, again, I didn't find much. Most of these jobs are consultant level, so there wasn't really much there. But another place that you can look is, this is WA. Again, there were only about 24 jobs, and there weren't any that I identified that would have been okay for an IMG. But another place you can go, some people recommend Indeed. I find it a bit clunky, but Seek I think is a good aggregation site. And you can see if you put in healthcare medical and residents and registrars, there's 116 jobs advertised. So this is like an aggregation site for all of Australia. May not pick up all the jobs advertised, 116, so obviously not picking up all the New South Wales ones, for example. But they do tend to pick up a few from around the traps. And there were a couple that I found, like this one in Central Queensland, which if you click on apply for this job, you'll get taken through to the website, and then you can get a role description. So this one, it's maybe possible because you have to have a degree to enable registration, and it is in Rockhampton, so it's regional, so they may well be looking for some additional IMGs to top up their roster, and there's nothing else there that says you can't be an IMG, so you might want to consider that. But another one that pops up regularly is Northern Territory, and they are definitely advertising for resident medical officers. You look at the job description here, which we have. Again, it's got these magic words: the ability to obtain registration prior to commencing the position, and all the else you need is completion of a medical internship with a relevant institution. So again, that well may be one that is open to IMG applicants. So that's a quick sort of synopsis of where the opportunities are. Remember, the key thing you're looking for there is some words to the effect or eligible for registration. There may be some doubts. If so, contact the person nominated on the job. If you come across a position that you're not sure of and you want to get my intake on it, please put the link in the description below and a comment, and I'll try and have a look at it as quickly as possible. Remember to subscribe or like this video depending on which platform you're watching on. Remember, we do have a question bank of over 700 questions to practice on, and if you're needing any coaching or document support, I'm available for that as well, and those services are linked on the website. And I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.